know if I ever told her that I feel that way about her. But years ago, when I was just doing the talent development company and 5-Star Talent and Productions, and I was not yet a agent, I had come across Rory. And Rory Yum had this beautiful body of work that I was seeing, and she was freelance modeling. And I tried to get her to sign with a bigger agency. I sent her to Posh Models. And she's one of the people that can actually testify to the fact that she never paid me a dime in coaching. She never paid me for any photo shoots. She never paid me for anything ever. But I still tried to assist her to get signed with Posh Models. So that was 9 years ago, we figured out.
Yeah.
And not that she's changed a bit, not that she's aged a day. And what? It's true. So what was cool was she went to meet with Posh and ended up taking a different path and saying, I need to travel the country right now. And she took the lovely freedom of youth and decided to do that with her time and didn't sign with Posh ultimately. And we kind of, I watched her from a distance and I watched her from afar. And then I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina and joined some of the groups here that were the photography groups and the modeling groups. And she popped up. And I thought that was the craziest thing. Like, well, are you here? What are you doing here? To take our line from Tuesdays, what are you doing here? But there she was. So we reconnected, and that was really very cool. And we're going to kind of make an announcement about where that's going to go at the end of this particular webinar, but not now. Right now you have to be in suspense. But there's a couple things I want to talk about first. If you're joining us and you're joining us live, we totally appreciate that. So we hope that you would turn off your phones, turn off Netflix, and just watch us and pay no attention to anything but our webinar. And we have done another workbook. So go into the unit section and print that up for yourself and follow along. It's going to keep you engaged and keep you interested and give you some things that are takeaways so that you will have them permanently. And of course, as I always do, for someone who posts their homework in my group after the fact, don't try to do it ahead of time. It doesn't work. Well, no, you're not really paying attention. You're just making stuff up. So at the end of it, if you post your homework, I decided what I was going to, I know what I'm going to give. I'm going to give a social media consultation so that I will look at your Instagram, your website, your Facebook page, and let you know if it's helping you with your marketability. So anybody that posts that tonight, I will be giving that service to. Well, the first 5. Let's say the first 5. If more than that, do it. I don't have time. I'm too busy. The other thing I wanted to bring up today, Thank you. I thought it was kind of fun. One of the things that I have come across again in my life, I put it away and I'm bringing it back, and I wanted to make everybody aware of this. I did 9 issues of something I called Modelle, Modeelle. And I thought it was this neat play on words, fashionable girl. But what occurred was after my 9 issues, I started getting quite a bit of popularity because I had PR companies from LA asking me if I would feature these kids. And they were the kid from Ricky, Nikki, Dickie, and Dawn who played Nikki, a girl from the Other Kingdom, which is a show on Nickelodeon, and some models from New York. I had photographers in there. I was getting quite a bit of attention. And when I did that, Elle Magazine said, you can't use that name. So I said, thanks for noticing me. I'm not going to fight with you. You're Elle Magazine, even though I don't know how they could own the entire French word for girl. But I put it aside for a while and just didn't touch it. And the reason I made it in the first place was I wanted it to be a fundraiser for talent. So if they needed photo shoots, if they needed travel money, if they needed wardrobe or coaching or something like that, they could sell ads as to people who would be sponsored. So, your friends and family that own businesses could buy an ad for you to sponsor you, and then we'd split 50% goes to the magazine and 50% goes to the talent. So it's meant to be a fundraising vehicle similar to pageant programs. So if anyone wants to take me up on that and needs help with generating some income for their career, hit me up. My email is Tracy, Tracy, at graymodelsandtalent.com, and let me know that you'd like a fundraiser pack for what is now MOD, M-O-D, L as the letter, and the L stands for lifestyle. So I'm in the process of making the first issue. If you're interested in being featured in it, send me some pictures and a little story about yourself. I do like ones with interesting background stories, so I'm actually wanting to feature Rory. So my next issue. So I'd like her to be my cover, so she can't be in the first issue. So I want her to be my cover model for next issue, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what some of the photographers I don't own the images.
Yeah, we have to ask the photographers for permission. I always do that, and I give them credit. And if I really love their work, I'll also feature them. So
that'd be cool.
That's what we could tell them and let them know. So they tend to be really supportive of that, and they like the fact that I actually want to talk to the photographers about their journey in photography. So
that's a really cool initiative.
Yeah, it's really very neat.
Yeah.
But I've got Rory here. I want to kind of, I told you my story of Rory. I'd like Rory to tell her story of Rory.
So how did I come to be?
How did she come to be? And why did you choose modeling?
Well, I used modeling as a means to an end. So when I was young, I really wanted to travel. I wanted to experience the world, see different cultures. I wanted a means for creative expression. And I think that's why I ultimately decided that the agency wasn't for me, because I had very different goals, which is not bad. It's just really good that I knew that at such a young age and was able to create or carve a path to align with those goals. And I did it through modeling. And I found a lot of freedom to kind of express myself or create images that I wanted to see in the world or reflect the ideas of how I saw the world. I thought that was really cool.
So her path took her traveling a lot. Yeah. Tell me some of the places that you've been.
With modeling, I've been to, there's 200 countries. I've been to 44 of them, and I've modeled in 40 of them. There were a couple of countries that I was either staying to briefly or were traveling to for other purposes, like Jordan, where I went to go see Petra, or Mexico, where I went to go see Chichen Itza, that I didn't model in, and in India, where I went to go see the Taj Mahal. So going there for different purposes.
Everybody's allowed a vacation from time to time. Okay, so I put together kind of this guideline for us to go through, and you know, I asked what modeling meant to Rory, and I'd like for all of you at home to consider what modeling means to you, whether you're doing it currently or whether it's something that you're aspiring to do. I'd like to know, you know, on your sheet, write down what modeling actually means to you, because I think that there's a big debate now. In fact, I wrote an article about the model and how it's overused. And anybody on Instagram puts up a picture and calls themselves a model. And there's an awful lot of that. And yet there's people who have worked very hard to become truly professional at the business that I think deserve to have the title of a model. And so, you know, that's part of my little spiel about how I feel about the word model. But what does modeling mean to you? I mean, you said it was an expression. But.
Yeah. Well, I hear what you're saying, and I think a lot of photographers struggle with that too, because with the accessibility of Instagram or phones or cameras, for example, you could label yourself as a photographer, but I think you, as an individual who's honed and perfected your skills, really stand out from those that don't, and it's apparent in your work. And so it could be super frustrating, I'm sure, if I looked at younger models or models that were newer coming in, so not necessarily younger, but just newer coming in, and claiming the idea of model, but not crediting or taking into account the many years it took me to hone my skills. But I think in the end, it makes me more confident, because of all the things that I see out there, I know that I'll get hired over them based on what I've put in my portfolio, or the work that I've invested, or the many years that so I don't really spend a lot of time getting frustrated with younger models or newer models. in the same way that I encourage like, photographers to get really hung up on, everybody can be a photographer now. I think for me, one of the most important things is I spend a lot more of my time or allocating effort and energy towards getting better, constantly improving, and improving not just my own skill sets as a model, but I know everything about photography there could possibly be. I've hired as a lighting assistant, I ran a studio, like a photography studio, I've community organized and built workshops for photographers, I've worked with other models, I've led as a model with other models, I've organized as an art director, and all of those experiences helped me become a better model and a better networker and build relationships that I was able to travel the world with or to grow with. So there's a lot of folks that I worked with that may have been just starting out on their career path that I took a gamble with, and we both got to grow together, and I thought that was awesome. And grew is totally a word. It's grow, grow together. I thought that was really cool, being able to see the difference between where we were when we met to where we are now today.
It's really very cool. It's like we were having a neat conversation, Rory and I, just a few days ago. We were on a webcam together for like 4 hours, and wouldn't stop talking, which we're not going to do tonight, guys. I promise. Sorry. But it was a very interesting thought that although she became self-coached, she actually knew innately that she wasn't going to know everything right away. Mm-hmm. So she was seeking out resources and trying to find ways to learn more and delve into that really, really intensely.
Yeah, I had studied a lot.
Yeah.
Anything from photo art books to the high fashion magazines of WL, anything I could get my hands on where models were, and high caliber, high quality models, household name models. I wanted to do research to find out what they were doing, what their body shapes look like, what does my body shape look like, so that I could show it to the best of my ability. I asked questions constantly of photographers, and I'm sure in some ways I was a little bit annoying. Why is this light here? What does it do? Can I see when you take a picture? How does it change the shape of my face if the light's here versus when it's here? What looks better? And by being able to review images over and over and over of myself, I learned what worked best for my body, and so then I can present that information and experience going into every new experience.
See, there isn't one path and one way to do it for everybody, and I know in my past webinars, and I encourage anyone that hasn't watched them all to just go to my YouTube channel and start watching them. But I talked about the different avenues that people can take, but one of the funny things that my brother Darren, the photographer, likes to bring up every once in a while to people is, oh, so you want to be a model? How many subscriptions to magazines do you have? And they'll go, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, how are you going to look at what's going on in fashion today if you're not looking at Vogue and you're not looking at any of them, like any of them? And I've had a lot of girls go, well, I go on the Instagram. And it's like, if you're going on the Instagram for a magazine, it's not really the same content as the entire magazine. So you are missing out. And I mean, I gave away a Vogue subscription to Dara Page. Dara, are you watching tonight? On my first webinar. And it's so inexpensive. It costs like nothing. And it's such a resource.
They're pretty affordable.
They're really affordable. So, between that and then stuff on YouTube and all different sorts of places that you can go and look and learn.
Well, I'll make the distinction between going on Instagram and looking at the magazines is the quality of work, the caliber. If you're seeking and working with an agency and you're seeking to work your way up a hierarchy of levels or tiers, you don't want to be doing what your peers are doing. You want to be doing what people above you are doing. It's fake until you make it, but the real version of it, not the I'm going to buy a Mercedes I can't afford version of it. It's the work to get their version.
Yeah, I like to say if you want to run with the big dogs, you got to act like a big dog.
It's very true.
Yeah, so that's very, very good advice. Things that she looked for while seeking photographers, because basically one of the things she really did was trying to run around and meet these photographers to build her portfolio the way she wanted it made.
Yeah. And
that's such a neat concept, and I don't think a lot of models and talent even look at that and think about that, but what do I want my book to look like? And that's what occurred to Rory, and the question on the page would be, and this one, listen to the advice, write down the advice in the notes so that you can hold on to these gems of wisdom. So what were you looking for when
I was looking through people's portfolios? Well, I'll touch on the thing that you talked about first. Like, I didn't immediately have all the answers when I was younger. I tried a lot of different genres to decide which ones I worked best in or what worked best for my body. And then once I understood that, I could narrow down the genres that I was going to work in comfortably. And then from there, I went to find photographers that fit within those aesthetics. So if they shot a lot of glamour, which is something that I don't do, then that's not going to fit my sense of aesthetics, and I'm not going to pose well in it, so then we're not going to produce good work. When I was looking through people's portfolios, I spent a lot of time looking for techniques, retouching styles, editing styles. So one of the things that was really important to me, if it's fine if you have older work, and as photographers we all learn and grow and change, and our styles change, or at least a good photographer's styles change. But there will be consistency throughout the portfolio of like maybe an area that they're really interested in, and they'll touch upon that multiple times. Like portraits, it's not going to be the same model, but it may be from a different perspective. One of the things that I would look for was skin retouching skills. So if the model in the portfolio had no pores, then I knew that that's not going to produce the kinds of images that I want in my portfolio. My portfolio is really important to me because that's telling the person who's going to hire you what's going to show up and what you're good at. And so I spent 2 years building the portfolio of work that I wanted to get hired for. That's what a portfolio is. Don't put things in there that you don't want to do again. And so I looked for skin retouching, and I looked for consistency as far as if the person invested time, effort, and energy into honing their skills. So they weren't just using filters or presets on Photoshop to rely on those things, but they were actually learning new skills over time. And you can see that based on, if Model Mayhem, for example, the timestamp of when somebody uploaded a picture. So if an image from 2 years ago looks really different than a newer image, then it's shown me that they've changed, they've grown, or they're making an effort to do something different. And effort is worth a lot. When you want to make images that might be a little bit outside of the box or a little different than what's in their portfolio, that effort tells me that they're willing to make an investment and they're willing to grow and get better.
That's nice. You know, interesting you brought up the retouching thing. I've had difficulties with photographers that would say to me, I'm not going to show you all the images, I'm only going to show you what I've chosen after I've edited it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I'm an agent. I'm not your client.
Yeah.
I'm the agent. And they said, well, I'll never do that. And then they send me 10 images, and one of them had this woman's hand like right in front of her face. I'm like, I can't use that to promote talent. So that was like, now I'm down to 9 images. Mm-hmm. and they wouldn't even budge on it and told me I was crazy for asking. And
I understand the protective nature of not wanting to share your images, especially if someone that you've trusted and showed images. As a photographer, you've trusted someone and showed them images, and then they took those unedited and put them all over the internet. That would be really scary. But for me, I've been in situations where I've built trust or a reputation where that's not my MO, and my genuine MO is that I care about the images or for everyone to succeed and do better. And because I created that atmosphere, I did get access to, and it's a special privilege to be able to see the results unedited, untouched from a shoot and be able to help select, because I know what my body looks good as, but I'm always open to other possibilities of, hey, I never thought of that angle before. And being vulnerable yet also confident of what works for me has been a really tough juggle, but it's actually benefited me in being able to have that privy, that space.
So neat. Okay, so the next thing that I brought up, which is a really interesting question, especially for Rory, where would you draw the line? And we had this really great conversation kind of about this, because Rory's portfolio has a great deal of, I don't know what the percentage would be, I really didn't count them or anything like that, but she has a lovely array of nudes. And you know, I usually talk to models and say you don't have to do that to get booked, and you don't have to do that to get booked. This was something that she, as an individual, enjoyed and liked the artistic side of it. And I will say that the ones that she's had on her website and on her media and wherever she can place it without them pulling it down, are lovely, and they remind me of statues or classic type art that you'd see in a museum. They're just so beautifully done that I look at them and she said, "Are you sure you'd ever want to sign me? Because I have all these nudes." And I'm like, "But they're beautiful. They're beautiful nudes." So when I had this conversation with her, we were also talking about how even though she shows that, she also has her boundaries, which is wonderful. So if you could speak on that a little bit.
Well, I think in response to the question, I had said something about knowing what you're comfortable with, and like that's a good boundary for anybody. If it's something that doesn't feel comfortable, then likely you'll regret it later. And once that image is created, then it's nearly impossible to uncreate it or take it off the internet. So if it doesn't feel comfortable at the time of being asked, whether it's pre-shoot or during the shoot, then it's better to be safe than sorry. And there's a couple of ways that you can go about doing it, which is, say you're at a shoot and a photographer says, "Hey, we're shooting this thing and I feel really comfortable with you. Do you mind if I ask you to take your shirt off or be topless or do an implied or be nude in any way?" And that's not something that you discussed before and you feel a little unsafe or uncomfortable. I've had something similar happen where it maybe pushed on my boundary where I don't do explicit nudes and was asked to do something like that. And I said, "Hey, do you mind if I take a couple minutes to think about it?" And I excused myself to go to the bathroom somewhere where I was private and could think to myself without the pressure of someone being there immediately and wanting an answer. I've also said, "Hey, maybe I don't feel comfortable with this concept or maybe need a little bit more time. If it's something that I do decide I want to do later, can we schedule a shoot where I'll be more prepared?" So there's a variety of ways of negotiating that. It doesn't always have to be yes or no, or you feel like it might have to be yes, then that's a definite sign it's a no.
Yeah. If it feels, and she uses the word coercion, and if it feels like it's coercion, then that's not a meeting of the minds. That's not an artistic endeavor. That's not what that is. That's something that you shouldn't feel comfortable with, and then therefore shouldn't do. So
it's true.
I really don't think that her portfolio itself would ever cause her to lose jobs, because obviously we'd look at her and go, "Wow, she's posing beautifully and very comfortably and making these wonderful moods like this. If I put this outfit on her, this collection on her, this gown on her, she's going to do that obviously well." So,
I mean, it can be seen that way. There was a time that I wrote, I think it was Doc Martens, perhaps, not to name names, but I did. I wrote that, and I said, "Hey, maybe you want to sponsor me?" And I don't think that I'm the kind of family-friendly idea that they may have had in mind. Punks, however, totally acceptable. Naked ladies, maybe not so much.
And what's funny about that, I was thinking about the dichotomy between nudity in print and nudity in acting. Because I was listening to the Helen Mirren masterclass just the other day, and she brought up the nudity clauses and how you should pre-discuss these. And I was thinking, somebody asked Helen Mirren to be nude? Well, it's really interesting that it is so commonplace that an actor or an actress would be, male or female, in a role and totally nude on a screen, be it big screen or our home Netflix, whatever, and that's not any prejudgment of that artist. In fact, if you think about the opening song that Seth MacFarlane did the one year at the Oscars of "We Saw Your Boobs," it was hysterical because everybody in the audience practically, they saw their boobs. Yeah. But here you go into print modeling, and you voiced that PayPal once gave you a hard time and wouldn't let you get paid.
Well, I think it's because our Americanized idea of nudity equals sexuality when it comes to women. And so it's kind of put a little bit of limits on us. Like, one of the people I really admire is Julianne Moore, because she's never been limited in her range of acting jobs or characters by the amount of nudity that she's had in other roles, where I feel maybe some other women may have felt that. Again, all assumptions. Whereas I think with with me and Doc Martens, for example, where they may have felt less likely to want to hire me or have me as a spokesperson, is I'm a free agent, so I have no one to answer to, and that's a big risk. And so with me, I feel like freelance modeling is great for certain things. I had very different goals, and then we talked about this a little bit before, where agency modeling has a lot more jobs and clients and an area to grow. So I think with Julia Moore, maybe she had a lot more jobs that she could try on, and so it wasn't as limiting for her with the nudity.
Right, right. And we were talking about how doing the freelance thing actually kind of gave you like a ceiling where you felt like you'd hit the height of what you could possibly do. Yeah. Whereas had you gone the route of an agency, it might have been a whole different story. And some of the agents weren't terribly nice.
Yeah, so the reason why I ultimately decided to go off on my own, I was 21 and I had gotten scouted. And at the time, I thought, okay, well, the only way that you can model is to be with an agency. And I had attempted to be with an agency in Florida and had a disagreement about my hair. I had a rather long mermaid hair, covers your boobs when you're not wearing any clothes. I call it mermaid hair. And I had asked my agent, well, actually, I had said, hey, I'm going to cut my hair. And my agent was like, you can't cut your hair. No successful models have ever cut their hair. There are no such thing as successful models with short hair. And I was like,
do you have like Twiggy? Hello?
Twiggy, Shoshka Brow, Linda Evangelista. Like, I could name a bunch of them.
A whole bunch of them.
And she was just like, no. And so I was like, okay, I don't feel that we're in a partnership here. I feel like I'm just being told what to do. And so youthful rebellion kicked in. I shaved my head and decided to take the course that was available to me, which was go do it on my own. And I did for quite a number of years. It's been almost 10 now. And I feel like I've hit a certain glass ceiling where the only realm to go from here would be work with an agency or network with a higher group of artists or artists that I don't have access to currently. And I use modeling as a medium to get the other goals that I wanted to achieve. And so as I'm now 30,
she says that like it's like such a big deal. Everybody that's been watching this knows that I announced in the beginning of this that I think I did a webinar like the day before my 50th birthday, and it was like oh, here she is going, I'm 30.
Yeah. Like, there's that. When I say to you that I felt like there's a Twinkie aspect to it, it's like I'm not a Twinkie. I have shelf limit at some point. When it comes to, at least in the agencies, which is great now that we're breaking these molds. We have unconventional models. We have models that are short or disabled or represent the diversity that we see when we open the front door, and I love that.
That's very true.
I think it's fantastic. I just feel like I don't contribute to that specific concept, so I may have hit my glass ceiling. Yeah.
I don't. But do you think she could possibly do some lifestyle work later on? I think maybe.
Potentially.
Could be a thing. Okay, so when I put the question, are there styles of photography that you would choose not to do? We've just had this lovely discussion about it, but I would like everyone that's viewing to think about that personally and write down ideas and thoughts about what are you willing to do, what are you not willing to do. And that's a personal choice, and I truly believe that you should voice that to your agent ahead of time and say, this is what I will or will not do. Even with acting, I tell them, if you're a vegetarian, don't make me send you on a KFC commercial because it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So let us know so that we know better than to even submit you for these things, because it really helps us to not waste time or to put you in a position that you're not comfortable in. So where would you draw your line? The next thing that I put down is what could you do to create your own personal path?
Ooh, wait. I think a really good way to determine what your boundaries were is like, if you weren't getting paid, what would you be comfortable doing? And if money is a motivator to do said thing, like take a KFC job because you need the money and you're a vegetarian, you're not going to want to do that thing. Right. So probably, what would you do if you weren't getting paid?
If it were free, if it were a freebie job, would you actually do this? That's a really good way to gauge that, because money shouldn't be your only motivation.
I think it's really hard when you're new or razzle-dazzled by the industry, or think that you're under an obligation to be the not difficult one to navigate what is okay for you and what's not okay. And so that very simple way of gauging is this okay for me? Would I do this for free?
And you know, the idea that they think that there's like a blacklist or this end-all be-all thing that oh, if I don't do this, it could ruin my career. Even if somebody says that to you, they're full of it. They're like totally full of it. There's so other ways. There's always another way. There's some other place you can go. If oh gosh, what was her name that got fired from Elite? I forget now. Naomi Campbell. If Naomi Campbell could get fired from Elite for being a pain in the neck and still continue to work, there are ways that somebody who's not really made a name for themselves yet could find someone else who will hire them. There's enough people out there.
I mean, I feel like it's a really nuanced kind of conversation where Naomi Campbell was being quite difficult and being difficult to work with, as in being late or not showing up or showing up inebriated. Is a little bit different than like being able to say, look, I'm not comfortable with this. And I think the difference being is the way that you responsibly communicate that and always show up to those communications. Like, a lot of the importance is placed upon pre-shoot communication for me, or at least in the freelance community, of I ask a lot of questions and have a huge conversation before I get into the shoot, because I want to make sure that I'm coming in completely prepared with all of the answers, or as much as possible, and then the person is also aware of what they're asking me to do, so that before the shoot they've had to consider me, and then during the shoot they're also considering me. So it creates that safety net of already having to do that.
There's an understanding already established, which is really a smart thing to do.
You asked me a question, I completely sidestepped
it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I guess you did. What can you do to create your own personal path was what I put down as a next thought and a guideline, because I know I feel like you did that. Like, you really did create your own path, and it was not just a combination of, you know, choosing photographers and building your book. You also went into the business side of things and really found a good way to get yourself out there. So how do you feel that you created this path for you?
Well, I think, you know, it came from like the thing that I did at the beginning. It took me 2 years to build a portfolio that I wanted, because I was super intent on, I only want to do these kinds of shoots. And so I focused on quality and making the book for the things that I wanted to get hired. And by doing that, I was able to then only get hired for those kinds of jobs, or jobs that aligned with that vision or goal, and that really kept me focused and constantly happy to create and constantly engaged, which made everybody that I worked with thrilled to work with me, and then would hire me again because I was fully present and I was happy to be there and happy to take on additional roles or jobs, like maybe, oh, do you need me to move this light, or what happens if we do this, because I was engaged and excited. And so when I forged my own path, the only thing that I did different was create a goal and then go, do these jobs take me closer to that goal, or do they take me further away? And stay true to that concept. And that helped me get where I was, or where I was going. And it may not have been the easiest one every time, especially when there was a job that I turned down and was like, oh, but that money could. If there was no wiggle room there with the photographer or the client hiring me to kind of be closer to my goal than further away, because everything's an open conversation and it's not a yes or no. It's a navigated, where do we meet, or where can we overlap? So as an example, if there's a photographer who would write me and they do mostly glamour, I'm thrilled that they wrote me and want to work with me, and communicate that to them, but also communicate that glamour is not something that I'm great at or comfortable doing. And since I want our shoot to be successful, could you meet me shooting this or this? And if they respond with anything less than, yeah, sure, I'd be stoked to shoot that with you, then it's a no. And we're going to go into the shoot not meeting either of each other's needs, and neither of us are going to be happy, and so the shoot's not going to be a success, and your reputation precedes you, where you were difficult or hard to work with. That's where those things come from. Like, the pre-shoot communication is super important.
You know, the neat thing that she said and brought up, and maybe I've said this in my other webinars, maybe I haven't, but personality has a lot to do with things. And if you're communicating well and you're being the business person on one end, but then when you show up for the shoot, you're fun and pleasant and open and have energy and are ready to rock this thing, then they're gonna like to be with you. If you're closed off and they have to draw your personality out, that's just really difficult and no fun. And nobody likes to leave a shoot going, wow, that was really hard.
That's true.
Yeah.
I've heard from a lot of photographers, I wouldn't say horror stories, but stories where they had to invest a lot of work into warming a model up. Mm-hmm. And whereas for me, things that I've done before show up in a onesie that's covered in pizza print.
I've seen her onesie. Actually, first time I met her in person, she was wearing that onesie.
Yeah. It's a way to disarm someone right off the bat and make a joke. Like, I'm willing to be the butt of the joke, and it makes it fun because now it's an icebreaker. And I also have dad jokes that I keep in my back pocket for in case things are like, oh, I don't know what to say, or I don't have a lot of energy to think today. I mean, I've been doing this for 9 years, so I've kind of honed the social aspect of it. But there's a lot of approaches to it if you're not naturally a social person.
That's pretty funny. So a model skill is to go out and find some jokes. We really didn't put that in any of our curriculum in the past, but hey, why not? If you're not good at coming up with stuff off the top of your head, you can still be fun and funny by finding some jokes.
Or interesting facts.
I mean, make yourself interesting.
Yeah.
There's stuff to talk about in the world. I mean,
that way it doesn't have to be about your personal life. And like, personally, I'm not very good at small talk. I know that about myself, and so instead of going through the excruciating, so how about that football game, or how about the weather, which is very hard for me, and I know that, I just come up with jokes or like weird, interesting facts, and that makes me sociable.
Perfect. Love that. Okay, so now I think we actually covered the question that we went around and then came back to. And what's really fun is that I'm sitting next to her, and we both are like hand talkers.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna smack you with this.
I know. I'm like contained box.
So waiting for this to yeah. So anyway, oh gosh, I went back to page 1. That doesn't help anyone. Oops. I would sound like I was just repeating myself. And
I'm really,
is this deja vu?
Actually really excited to see what some of the folks' answers would be to the worksheet.
I know, it'll be fun. It'll be really good. Do this for us, because we want the feedback too. It's not just about you guys expanding your horizons. We'd also like to know what kind of things that you're going through, or what you're feeling, or what your ideas are and your goals and things like that, because maybe we have even more feedback based on your papers and helping you out. I had one girl that in my earlier webinar, she posted her homework, and she'd said she'd been signed with an agency for a year and had actually not made any money and had spent more than she'd made. And it was kind of like, oh, you're going to acting classes every week, and you're doing all this stuff. I'm like, something's wrong. Well, I'm going to talk to you more. Yeah. So because she put that up there, we had a really great conversation about what was actually going on with her career. So we do read them, we do look at them when you put your stuff up there, and it might be a neat little conversation opener between us, ultimately. So
dialogue starter.
Yeah, absolutely. I put this down, and I know, oh, look at all the hearts going. That just makes me so happy. What kind of drives me crazy, and I'll voice this because I know that I would love to just shout out and say hi to all of you individually, but with my vision and these glasses, all of that is blurry to me on the screen until later on when I can come up real close to it and be like, oh, hey, Brazil is on tonight. See, now I look weird because I'm looking way over here. Hi, Melissa. I hope you're feeling better. Masha. Cool.
Hey.
So there's some really great people. Oh, and I wanted to say hi to Bridget White, if she happens to be on tonight, because I saw her on Sunday, and she's somebody that's been a fan of my Get Reels, to the point where she walked up to me and went, "Oh, it's Tracy Gray."
Oh, that's so sweet.
I went, "Hi, Bridget." And she was really totally excited to see me, and I thought, well, she's kind of got a little fandom thing going on. So I just wanted her to know that stuck in my heart, and it really touched me.
Sweet.
So a little shout out to Bridget. Thank you so much for the appreciation. It makes me tickled. So anyway, I'll move on after that little talk about how much people like me.
It's cute
anyway,
though.
It is cute. It was so cute.
It shows that you brought it up earlier, so I'm going to reiterate it out of my own words. When Tracy and I met, or originally were in correspondence, she reached out and just said, hey, could this be of use to you? And it wasn't, let me make a connection, or how can I make money off of you, or how can I do this? It was a genuine, you're doing a thing, would this be of help to you? And that led us to where we are now, which is years later, but maybe doing a thing together.
Yeah, that was really nice for you to bring it up that way. And I try to tell people that I'm in this, not for me really. This is about, I'm this vessel of information, and I want it to go out there to everybody, which is why I sit here and do these videos that look, people love. Like, the little hearts are going up the screen. So that just makes me thrilled that this is something that people are appreciating and that they're benefiting from. And I hope to expand that and build relationships that are new off of this too. So that's part of why Rory's even here tonight. So we're just giving you these little hints, and we're not telling you anything. It's I'm Polish, so I like to say to people all the time, how do you keep a Polak in suspense? So, yeah.
I hate it, but it's true.
But that's what I'm doing right now. So if any of you are Polish, I'm just keeping you in suspense. So anyway, we were going to talk about how she improved some of her presence on the internet.
Okay.
Because she has become quite excellent at being a social media entrepreneur. Yeah, she 42,000 Instagram followers. Is that what I heard? Yeah.
Well, I mean, so it's kind of organic, which is interesting because now that we live in an age where you can buy these things. But again, when we were talking about creating, like when I forged my path of what I wanted to do, I understood what my brand was, which is me in the most authentic version of myself that's sustainable. And I realized that social media was a way to share the story of me. And what was the story of me? And sitting down with myself and going, okay, this is the story of me. A traveler who's a nomad, who does nude and androgynous work. Those things are important, and so I always stayed close or within those realms of showing visually those things. And by always being friendly or sociable and not the complaining one or not the one that's always negative, I mean, that's pretty much what social media is in a nutshell. It's like we go to it to be entertained, and how can I entertain that is true to me?
But one of the things that I'd had an impression of her, based on her social media, I'd had an impression of her. And a lot of the captions she'd put along with some of her very moody, beautiful work would be something that was, deep and cerebral and philosophical and sometimes poetic, or a quote or something like that. And it made me think that there's this like really deep soul in this person. And then I meet her in a pizza covered onesie. and it kind of made me go, wow, God, how fun is that?
Well, I mean, I can explain. So one of my closest friends calls me organized chaos. And I, for the longest time, was like, what does that even mean? And I get it. So for me, with the nude art, I know it's really risque, and it can be very quickly sexualized or cheapened by being on the internet or in these social media realms. And to marry a deep intellectual conversation or comment or quote to that piece of art that I see as art, I'm informing folks how to view that. Now, they could still choose to look at it and go, oh, well, that's just nudity and it's sexual and it's porn. Sure. But what I have the capability or control over is how it will be perceived in the written communication that's with it, and the visual, which is the image itself, and then how I respond to people, which is also part of the story of me. And I try to use my when I do invest time and energy into responding to comments as not a direct response to the person, but really a moment to be educational or shift perspectives for everyone involved. So it's not a personal attack or a defense to the person specifically who may say something that doesn't agree with me. It's more, hey, this is how I see the world, and I understand where you're coming from, and all of those things in combination have informed people, potential clients or photographers that may work with me, who I am or what I might be when I show up, except for the onesie.
Except for the onesie. She didn't like ever make a post that said, I think tonight I'm going to wear my pizza covered onesie. There was no warning of that whatsoever. But it was really, it was charming and adorable, and it kind of hit me from the left side.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, it's really great.
Yeah.
I like when people surprise me and hit me from the left side. It was something fun. You know, that's, why not? So that was just another thing that made me go, ah, she's so cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, that's that part of it, or that facet of me, the goofy that I sometimes show, is intended to disarm people who are more intimidated or have built up this pedestal or platform. And it's like, no, I'm a human, and I do silly things, and I sometimes fall over during shoots because I have no grace, you know. And so it's a good reminder that I am an actual human being as well.
Very cool. Yeah, everybody knows that I've said that about myself too, is that I'm so human. Yeah, we're all people. Everybody's a person. So, okay, this is what I want to do next, because this is kind of a neat thing, and I have my students do this. It's called the click game. And the click game is often used in an agency situation when we are trying to determine whether or not a model is ready to be signed. And so what we do is we start going click, and that's the shutter of the camera. And for every click, we want to see a pose. So this is not an easy thing for a new model. And typically, if I say I want to do 30 seconds of the click game with someone, usually around click 25 through 28, they start getting really nervous. Because like that's when they start going, oh, I'm running out of ideas. Oh, I'm running out of something. Maybe I did that already. That's when they start getting self-doubt. And really they have like 2 more poses to go. And then I go, well, you were done. And then they, oh, really? But when we've got someone who's experienced enough in posing that this is something she has studied and crafted and worked at for almost 10 years, then the click game for 30 seconds should be nothing. Like piece of cake.
I mean, so, there have been times when I've been in the other realm where I was like, oh, okay, 20 more of what do I do? And then I realized, oh, okay, well, you just try something you haven't already tried before, and that's when you get really creative. Like, what happens if I do this? I haven't done that before. Why not?
So what we decided, so that you can get her kind of a full view thing, is we're going to utilize some of my space a little better here. So Rory is going off into my usual runway area, and she's got a stool there that she's allowed to utilize too, so we can have some poses with the stool, some without the stool, but I'm going to let Rory take it away. And what I'm going to try and do, because I'm really bad at this, I'm going to try to not lose count, because I'll start paying attention to what she's doing, and then I'll be like, where's that 24, 20, okay, 20, yeah. So I'll try not to do that to her and make her do it all over again, because I might have the tendency to do that. So anyway, we're going to start. You feel good? You ready?
Yeah, I'm stretched out. Let's do this.
Okay, cool. So pose 1.
All right. That was a little happy, sorry. Because I'm so used to moving quicker. And then there's 3/4. I'm kind of all over the place trying to figure out, like, where's the camera here? Nah.
30.
Oh, well.
30.
No, I was like, stool your cramping my style.
Now I'm gonna give her a minute. I didn't tell her I was gonna do this to her, but I'm gonna do this again. So hit back over there for me, and then I want you to do it in like more of a video pose style. So
okay.
I'll count to 30 while you're doing that, and then I'll just say cut when you're done. So I'll 3, 2, 1, action you, and do like 30 seconds of a more video posing style. So instead of pausing for a shutter, she's just going to fluidly move. Okay, so
like the videos you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Okay, 3, 2, 1, action. And cut. What do you think of that? Excellent demonstration of posing techniques by Rory. So that was what we were kind of working up to. We do have a couple more
what are the other
questions to go over, and then we have our announcement to make. So we're running really good on schedule, but I want you all to like show Rory some love now for showing off her excellent techniques. I just think she's amazing. And if we'd been shooting like actual stop the shutter every time that she was doing something, we would have had really great shots.
Well, I feel like the first round, I'll be the first to admit, maybe not my classic best job. I was like, where's the camera? I had to like acclimate to where it was.
Because it's this little itty bitty dot instead of a tripod with a camera on it or a guy.
I was like, where looking, who am I addressing?
It's very funny. It's a different thing when it's like, it's webcam.
Yeah. Well, I kind of got lost. I was like, who am I posing to?
Right. So I put this demonstration just before the number 7 question on the worksheet, which was about discussing the way the camera sees a model and instructing you all to take some notes about some effective techniques to improve the image. So do you want to give out some and then I'll give out some, or we'll just feed off each other for this?
Do you got a good suggestion for the start?
One of the things that people need to be more aware of is that things that are closer to the camera get bigger. So see how my hand is now the same size as my body. If it's closer to the camera, it's going to get bigger. Which, if you happen to need that for like maybe here, but not so much here, you might move that part of your body further away from the camera and move the other parts that you want to accentuate closer. So you must little tip and trick.
Yeah. I think being aware of perspective is a great idea. I think also like body awareness, knowing if there's a feature on your body that you don't want to accentuate it, so that would help you know. Like maybe it could be your nose, or maybe it could be your jaw, or maybe it could be your butt. You don't want it to be bigger, then that's the thing that you move further away. I know for like me, the thing that works really well because I'm angular is doing a lot of triangles or geometrical work that works for me, and so understanding my relation to where the camera is and how my body will be interpreted, that comes from we're looking at dozens and dozens and dozens of images.
Angles add such interest. I find if they're done properly, and if they're not done part way. I like to tell some of my new beginning models to try and be hyper in the moment. Instead of being like, oh, I'm just standing here, I'm not really here, I'm just standing there like any other day. So be present, be in the moment, and don't do things halfway. If you're gonna do it, do it.
There's actually a really good example of this. There's a model, her name is Maya, and she's quite young, and she had an image in her portfolio when I looked it over to give her feedback on it. That was one of the strongest images, and to me, I pointed it out as being the strongest image because she had an orange on her head, and her head was so tilted to the side that it stood there. And why I thought it was the strongest image in her portfolio, even though there were dozens of beautiful images, was because she had wholeheartedly committed to this idea and being present in the moment and making it the best possible thing she could. And you could tell in her body language, the way she was looking directly and defiantly at the camera, and just her presence, and it spoke through, and that's what made her stand out. So I thought, wow, that's really cool.
I like to allow my talents and my models to feel that they can put some of the actress into their shoot. If you can think about something and create an idea in your head about what kind of a setting you're in or what kind of moment you're in or something like that, so that you actually elude more of an emotion. So that's another thing that I find is really useful.
I've used that to convey sadness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does my body do when I'm sad or vulnerable? How does it look? Do my shoulders slump? Do they come up to my ears? Does my face come in within itself? And using your body and every muscle and tension that you have to create a visual representation of a feeling. I mean, it's acting, but in a photograph. And for me, that's how I approach modeling. It's made it really easy to make it, like how you were talking about the script, breaking it off in bite-sized pieces. Photography is breaking acting off into bite-sized pieces because we don't have to endure the hour-long filming process. We can do it in seconds, in nanoseconds.
She watched my episode last Tuesday, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, she's quoting back to what we were talking about in the Tuesday webinar. And what's funny is she actually reached out to me again and let me know she was back in the Durham area because she was watching my videos and watching this whole webinar thing. So I went, what a great idea. Yeah, be my guest. I want you on here. So that was the beginning of this kind of conversation. The last thing that I have on the questionnaire before we make our announcement, because I want to make our announcement, the last thing on the questionnaire that I've written said, what would you like to learn about print modeling? So, kind of if you had questions that you wanted to ask us, what would they be? What are things that you think maybe we don't know? You could go out and find.
Yeah.
But what is it that you feel that you don't know about print modeling that you would like to learn? And we want to hear those kind of feedbacks and things too.
Yeah.
But yes, put your finished stuff on the it can go on the main discussion board as well as within the unit, depending on where you are when you want to post it. And either way is perfectly fine. But we've gone through all of the topics of our little interview and our conversation. So I guess it's time that we actually announce something.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Suspense over.
Suspense stuff. It was really interesting that in my lifetime and in my history, I'd hit a point where I thought I'd been there, done that enough, and that was not what I wanted to do anymore. And it has come to my attention that Rory has hit a been there, done that kind of phase in her life, and she feels that she has this wealth of information and this career path that is worth sharing with others. So we are now talking about a collaboration where she would be a coach along with me on my programs. So for those of you that would be interested in not just learning from a webinar, but from actually participating, that's the program that I'm starting as of next week. There's 2 nights that modeling occurs. There's 2 nights that acting occurs. 1 hour each session, so it doesn't get too long. It's kind of exactly the length of these. But I'm going to post a link to the Get Real website so that you can check that out and see if you'd like to be in a situation where you get an invitation to join a Google Hangouts meet where we can actually interact with each other, where you can talk and I can see you, and you can pose and I can see you, or you can walk and do runway and I can see you. I've had this be actually very effective for some models before where they'd done no modeling whatsoever, but after webcam coaching with me, they open the show, close the show, and walk the designer in their first show. So if you're interested in having that kind of an interaction, I will be posting a link to my Get Real Modeling and Acting program that you can sign up and be part of. And I've made it so that there's an affordable payment option, and there's also a discount if you want to pay for the program in full. And it is a 3-month, twice a week program. So it's 12 hours of time that you can learn from. 16, sorry. Hey, I'm a model. Sometimes my math skills go down the tubes. No, actually, we're all obviously quite intelligent businesswomen who have skill levels and have hearts and have dedication and genuine emotion that goes into being a professional and being skilled at this. So we'd like for more comments. We'd like to thank you for joining us, but you're going to see more of Rory and me and things to come. So some of those sessions in the Get Real modeling program will actually be conducted with Rory. So I'm going to have some nights off how weird is that? What,
Nice.
I might actually I don't know, breathe. No.
Take a nap?
I'll take a nap? I'm not good with naps.
Probably spend a lot of time on your magazine.
That's really what's going to happen is I'm going to spend it writing articles because that does take quite a bit of time for the design feature of it and all of that. So I do hope to be spending my time writing articles. So again, if somebody wants to benefit from that and the fundraising aspect, let me know. Tracy at graymodelsandtalent.com. So thanks guys for joining us.
Thanks.
It's 8 o'clock. We've done 1 hour exactly. And this was episode 9 of Get Real. Have a good night. Bye. And see, I get bigger when I get closer to the camera. Night.
So good.